Hey guys, EzraTime here and welcome back to another reaction videos, and today we are going to be reacting to the game theory video. This is like the final FNAF theory by matpat. I know that this was released like a week ago I think, and I'm sorry that I'm late to this final video. Even matpat released like a final theory video, but I was kind of busy doing some other stuff for other YouTube channel, so I apologize for that, but here I am right now, because I just know that yes, I have to react to this obviously because I've been reacting to a lot of matpat game theory, so I thought that, well, this is the final one, so I might as well react to it, because I'm for sure I'm gonna miss him, once he's no longer hosting game theory, so without further ado, let's start the video, shall we?
Well, loyal theorists, this is it. This will be my final FNAF theory. And
Oh,
this time,
man.
I mean it.
That intro, man. Oh, of course. Oh. Oh, whoa.
The end is nearly at hand. The pieces are in place for you.
That was really cool.
Look for the green and remember everything I taught you. Remember, dates are important. Remember them.
by FNAF 87. Yeah, so I noticed that matpat put like some clues out there to figure out like the ending for his theory. I'm not gonna look for them, to be honest, but I'm just gonna react to the video, so I'm sorry.
Welcome to Game Theory, the show that, by my count, has had no less than 10 final FNAF theories. At this point, it's practically become its own meme, but this time, it's no joke. After 66 theories, 3 live talkbacks, and 1
66,
bangin' remix...
Exotic words.
Make that 2
Oh, wow.
bangin' remixes.
Music, man.
I end my coverage of Five Nights
Sorry.
at Freddy's. After this, there's only one final game theory, and then the curtain closes on my time as host, and Tom will have to step into the spotlight. Hope you're ready for the challenge there,
man.
Tom. Tom?
Toy Bunny, Easter Bunny, Chocolate Bunny, Melted Chocolate Bunny, Withered Bunny, Blackheart Bunny,
Oh my
Rockstar
God.
Bunny, Glamrock Bunny, Sunken Toy Bunny, Bonbon, Just Bon,
A
System
lot
Error
of Bonnie, man.
Nightmare Bunny.
Well done, but how many toes does he have?
2, no, 3, 5?
Again. The first step of FNAF theorizing. Slowly losing your mind. I think he's gonna do just fine.
Oh
I did
man, I'm
consider
gonna
maybe
feel bad for Tom because FNAF is super complicated, but I'm pretty sure mine is
my
gonna
final
help, right?
theory about FNAF, but actually I have
Still.
something really special planned for that one. So special,
Okay.
in fact, that we're going to be doing a premiere for it on this channel next Saturday, March 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern,
Yeah, it's
11
already
a.m.
passed.
Pacific. We're going to have some fun.
I'll
You
probably
guys
react
will be
to it
able
later
chat
on.
with me live as that video releases. And who knows, there might even be some secrets to find. And most importantly of all, I get to say my final goodbye and thank you to all of you for the last 13 years. So that's next week, March 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Make sure you're subscribed so you're notified when that one goes live. Speaking of March 9th, just a quick reminder that that's also the final day of sales for my U2s. Once I retire as host on the 9th of March,
okay.
U2 will retire and be gone forever. So if you do want this little piece of game theory history, or, your own little psychic friend Fredbear, head on
Hey,
over
man.
to YouTubes.com or click the link in the description
He's
to grab
there,
your
he's
matpat
there,
figurines
he's
and FNAF
everywhere.
kits before they're
Who
nothing
you
but a
gonna call?
distant memory.
Sucky
Let
fan
dream theory,
Fredbear.
But enough housekeeping, it's time
You
to
guys
talk
remember
about
that?
FNAF.
It's so
Let me
good,
tell you,
man.
I've spent a long time thinking about this one. How do you end a series like this? Should I just do a normal theory about some minute detail? Doesn't really feel final, Plus, I'd probably end up calling someone a robot, and then a bunch of people would get mad at me again. Should I redo the
Yeah.
ultimate FNAF timeline as one final, here's the lore? Well, that would certainly be big, but it also doesn't feel like that much was changed post-Ruin and Help Wanted 2 from what we did at the end of last year. So I didn't really want to be redundant either. You can see the struggle that I was facing, right? This episode, it's a
Yeah.
big deal to me. It is literally the end of my legacy with FNAF. And you see, that's when it hit me. Legacy. Typically, FNAF theories are born out of the small details, but what if I took a step back and looked at the big picture? What if instead of counting
Ooh,
animatronic
okay.
toes or dead kids, I took a meta approach and just looked at the entire legacy of FNAF? I'm sure we're all familiar with the
Okay,
butterfly
that's
effect,
exciting.
right? The idea that a butterfly flapping its wings could cause the smallest of changes in the air, which could potentially lead to a tornado forming. Well, the term actually comes from the research of meteorologist Edward Lorenz, who, back in 1963, decided to round some numbers in his data. He condensed one variable from 0.506127 to just 0.506. And yet, that tiny change right there completely threw off his computer's weather models, transforming sunny skies into violent storms, hence the whole tornado thing. This realization that small changes in data could yield such tremendously different results ultimately threw off science's entire understanding of nature. Before Lorenz, people thought that the universe could ultimately be predicted. Sir Isaac Newton back in 1687 famously believed in the clockwork universe, the idea that the parts of the universe worked like a machine, and that eventually, if you understood how the parts worked, you could predict practically anything. French mathematician Pierre-Simon Laplace actually said basically the same thing.
Okay,
Eventually, we would get
really
to a place where
interesting,
nothing
man.
would be uncertain. And yet, Lorenz showed us that one small change, one minor mistake or estimate or imprecise
The fact that
measurement
people
in a complex
back in the day
system
think
could have
like
a
that
domino
is
effect
pretty
at a
insane,
massive
you know.
scale, resulting in changes that you would never see coming. For example, in 1928, Alexander Fleming discovered that there was mold in his petri dish, but rather than just throwing it away or cleaning it up, he decided to study it, which then led to the discovery of penicillin, a life-saving antibiotic that could be used to treat meningitis, pneumonia, gonorrhea, syphilis, blood poisoning, and many others. Or if you want another example, you have the explosion of hip-hop music largely owing its origins to a random lightning strike in New York City. In 1977, a bolt of lightning put the city of New York into a 25-hour blackout. So what do you do for all that time that you're stuck in the dark? You loot and pillage, baby! New Yorkers started to ransack storefronts, including music shops full of instruments and supplies. Suddenly, expensive DJ equipment was in the hands of young aspiring musicians eager to experiment with hip-hop, which was a new genre of music just hitting the local scene. And thus, hip-hop was truly able to thrive. History is full of these sorts of stories, from the foundations
Man,
of
that was
medicine and
pretty
music
insane,
to even stuff as
you know.
extreme as the origins of both World War I and II. Why do I bring all this serious stuff up in relation to Spooky Bear Game? Because FNAF is one of those rounded variables. One decision by
true.
Scott Cawthon reshaped gaming and YouTube and the entire entertainment world as we know it. And that's not an exaggeration for effect. One man's decision
just
to
one
not
man,
give up,
just
to
him.
try again in the face of rejection and adversity, literally shifted billions of dollars of the economy and affected hundreds of millions of lives in ways that are incalculable. And that is what I wanted to call attention to in my final FNAF theory. FNAF shows us that by not giving up, one person can have a profound effect on the course of history itself. I feel like the origin story of FNAF's been talked about to death, but just to set the stage here, despite hitting it big with FNAF in 2014, its creator Scott Cawthon had been making games at that point for 20 years, since 1994.
And a
yet,
Christian
even in
game,
those earliest
right?
days, you can tell that Scott had a fascination with creepy robots, working their designs into projects like the sci-fi Moon and the religious Pilgrim's Progress. Even this incredibly rudimentary RPG Legacy of Flan has a final boss that has what looks to be the first appearance of what would eventually evolve into the Mangle. But despite producing a lot of games, none really ever caught the public's eye. And then came Chipper and Sons Lumber Company, where initial reviews, what few there were rough. And as the story goes, it was the reaction of James Stephanie Sterling that would change the course of Cawthon's career forever. Thank God for her.
It's just all over the place, and that thing looks like it's gonna kill your children. I imagine the phrase,
there you go.
kill me, is stated over and over again in the world of Chipper and Sons. Oh, they're robot beavers. That's not good. I think he's the only living thing in this world.
This repeated criticism, plus the lack of financial stability, brought Scott down to his lowest. Ready to quit games, he decided to try one final time and lean into the thing that had been leveled at him time and time again, the creepy robotic animations. And thus, Five Nights at Freddy's was born. And that right there, that's gonna act as our nexus point. The one flap of a butterfly wing. The decision to make a final game instead of just giving up. Now, let's see how it all maps out from there. Let's start with just the obvious.
Yeah, this is insane. Scott could just give up, you know, but I'm glad the man didn't, and just try one last time, and then look where he got him now. Like, holy shit, man. You never know that, man. Life is insane, you know.
Downstream effects of this. That one game, over the course of the last decade, has spun off into 12, which honestly, I've never truly sat down and processed. But believe it or not, there are 12 of these things, depending on how you count them. The entire franchise has sold 9.9 million copies on Steam alone, which in total has an estimated revenue of $94 million. That's not even including the console and mobile ports, or the number of microtransactions for FNAF AR, which itself had over 40 million downloads. It's also worth pointing out that of the $94 million, 55 million of that was just from Steam sales of Security Breach, because that one was actually at full price as opposed to all the others, which were either free or a couple of bucks. And while the first 4 FNAF games were entirely a one-man job, the rest have included voice actors, composers, entirely separate game studios like Steel Wool and Illumix. Even to this day, we're seeing this continue with studios like Megacat, who up until now have been focused on releasing games on retro consoles, very niche market, but that made them perfect to create the retro style style pixelated FNAF game into the pit, releasing later this year. By pairing up with these smaller companies that aren't insanely well known, Scott's not only been able to make bigger, better games, he's also been able to use his single game's success to put millions of eyeballs and millions of dollars into each of these companies. As a result of their work with FNAF, Illumix started working with Disney on features found throughout the parks. And if Steel Wool ever do release a game outside of FNAF in the future, you can bet that it's going to have itself a fan base attached to it because people now know about them and they're going to want to see what other work they can do. So that's on the game side, or at least it's on the official game side. But stopping there would be overlooking the much bigger impact FNAF has had on the games that haven't even been released yet. This one series inspired a whole new generation of game designers unlike any game that's ever really come before. All of them cutting their teeth on a genre
many
that
FNAF
exploded
fan
in the
game,
mid-2010s, the FNAF fan game.
Yep,
Five Nights at Treasure Island, Five Nights at Wario's, Pop Goes, The Joy of Creation, Those Nights at Rachel's, Afton Built, Glitched Attraction, Bloody Nights Juniors, Day Shift at Freddy's.
A lot of them.
Thanks. What is this game?
I could go on and on and on for days. Some of these were just for the memes, others were more serious attempts at making games inspired by FNAF, and many of them were just taking the world that Scott had created and broadening it outward into the game that they wanted to see made. If you go onto Game Jolt, you'll find thousands of fan games, and I do mean thousands. If you search just for FNAF and select games, you're presented with 36 games per page and 277 pages available. That is 9,961 games that are tagged
nearly
using
10,000,
FNAF. If you're sitting there thinking, hold on, the math there doesn't add up, you're right, good noticing. That's because I had to remove 11 of Scott's own games that were posted on that list. Though I'm pretty sure that there are some out there who'd like to pretend that FNAF World was a fan game. Each and every one of those 10,000 fan games represents a budding game designer, sometimes several. And while many of those creators are likely never going to pursue game design full time, there are some who will, either independently or as part of a bigger studio, going on to have their shot at creating their own mega franchise, their shot to transform the industry. And already you can see that some of these devs are finding success, to the point where many of them have created multiple different games at this point, turning their fan projects into full-on franchises of their own. And all of this is without even mentioning the Fanverse initiative, where Scott invested money and resources into some of the most promising projects to help those fledgling businesses grow. Now, the success of that one is up for debate for various reasons, but the point ultimately stands.
Yeah, FNAF Plus is cancelled apparently. I didn't know that because this is one of the fan games that I kind of looking forward to it, because it seems pretty cool, but apparently it was pulled from Steam. So it was cancelled, and it's just really sad. I think Fisnum, the creator, has some problem and apparently controversy. I don't know what controversy it is, see if anyone have any information about the FNAF Plus, why it was cancelled, then please let me know, because I was looking forward to it and then it was cancelled, and it was surprising to me. Like, it's just sad, it really sucks because I really want to play it, or I can see it.
Freddy's has been directly and indirectly involved in the rise of a new generation of game developers. Developers that just now, 10 years later, we're only starting to see get to a point where they're really influencing the wider gaming landscape. Except gaming, it's already seen a massive shift coming off the heels of FNAF. Prior to FNAF's release, if you took a look at any top 10 list about horror games, it would have been filled with games like Outlast, PT, Amnesia, games that leaned hard into psychological horror and sometimes graphic gore. FNAF, though, was different. While other horror games used the classic horror trope of not knowing what the monster looked like, relying on the audience's mind to fill in the blanks of what might be lurking in the shadows, FNAF put the monsters front and center, allowing them to be the star of the show like we see in movies like Friday the 13th and Halloween. This allowed FNAF games to be much more thumbnail friendly and easier to sell online compared to the spooky dark hallways or overcomplicated monster designs that dominated the horror space in the past. Mix in the more family-friendly scares of Freddy and the gang, and you've got yourself a brand new subgenre of content, mascot horror, as dubbed by YouTuber John Wolf. This genre took old nostalgic locations and filled them with brightly colored killers brought to life through some weird experiment or trauma. Bendy and the Ink Machine, Poppy Playtime, Rainbow Friends, My Friendly Neighborhood, Hello Neighbor, Baldi's Basics, Choo Choo Charles, Amanda the Adventure, and of course, Carton of Ban Ban. And that's not even dipping into the hundreds of lesser-known titles like Joyville. It was FNAF who paved the way for all of these games. Poppy sold 2 million copies in 2 years. Bendy has made over $30 million just off of its 2 major installments. Hello Neighbor is a thing that continues to exist. And while people complain about oversaturation in the market at this point, there is no denying that the formula has worked extremely well for the better part of the last 10 years. But maybe you're sick of games. You want to read a book? Well, I hope you're excited to read the 7 Hello Neighbor books, 5 Bendy books, or the Poppy Playtime Employee Handbook that's coming out later this year. Mascot horror franchises now also line the shelves of your local Barnes & Noble. Why? Because FNAF did it first. Oh sure, Scholastic had done some video game book publishing in the past, mostly guidebooks and activity books, but after the success of the FNAF trilogy, they began to publish other video game books like Assassin's Creed Last Descendants, World of Warcraft Traveler. This led them to launch an entirely separate wing to their business, AFK, the video game specific book department. It's these guys who are publishing all the books that Tom is now gonna have to read.
Oh man.
No, it's impossible to know for certain that FNAF was the reason for all this, but given it was often shown at the top of articles for this new publishing arm at launch and has sold 9 million books to date, with an average book price being about $10, that is $90 million infused into the historically struggling print publishing business. It's no wonder the first 6 rows of their website are dedicated to FNAF. But without AFK, it's easy to imagine a world where these other mascot horror games didn't get that chance, and all those writers who've now been able to make a living off of these franchises wouldn't be recognized like they are. I mean, take for instance Andrea Wagoner, who wrote the vast majority of Fazbear Frights and Tales from the Pizzaplex stories. She's now getting DM'd by fans asking for lore clarifications, something I'm sure she never anticipated while working on her past writing projects, like her dog how-to book, Dog Parenting, or Alternate Beauty, the story of a big girl with big dreams. Her words, not mine. The same thing is now happening with another struggling industry, movies. After spending 8 years in production hell, losing directors, struggling with studios, and trying to nail down a script, Blumhouse eventually took the chance on FNAF, making the movie on a $20 million budget and earning back nearly $300 million. If you don't think Hollywood is taking strong notice of that when they are struggling to get butts in seats, you are wrong. You think it's a coincidence that 2 months after FNAF's release, Bendy announced his big screen debut? And while a Poppy Playtime movie was already in the works with Studio 71, I can almost guarantee conversations with studios around it have shifted in the aftermath of FNAF. And who knows what other mascot horror games might end up with movies down the line. And not only is it getting indie games,
I would love to say Hello Neighbor.
It's also reshaping film studio priorities as they continue to fumble around in the dark.
A lot of this movie has like massive budget, and they're barely making their budget back from the box office, man. Like holy shit. I think all 3 of them are flop right at the box office. I mean, not hard to see why. I mean, they probably kind of fun to some people, but even then they're not exactly good movies, you know. And I think FNAF was super lucky that it was like small budget and then he has a big fandom, so it's a good decision overall, you know. So I think the industry is definitely changing in the future. I think Bendy might be next, who knows. Quite excited for that, to be honest.
Struggling to find ways to compete with online content, I've literally had conversations with people in the film space about how they're trying to tap into that FNAF audience, that online community. The success of this one film will be shaping the types of movies that get made and how they look moving forward. I guarantee it. But while movie releases make big bucks for big studios, the economic ramifications go way beyond just extra cash in the pocket of Jason Blum. The FNAF movie was shot in New Orleans, which, since Hurricane Katrina, has been an economically depressed part of the country. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but from speaking to local actors and business owners while I was down there filming last year, I learned that New Orleans actually has a long history in film production. When the state government of Louisiana first introduced tax breaks for film productions back in 2002, over 1,000 projects happened down there in the span of 7 years. Those productions created jobs, hired locals, and brought millions of dollars back into the city. However, pre-COVID, those incentives were rolled back, and productions have now started to move to other places like Georgia. That's why so many of the local actors and business owners I spoke with while down there were eager to see the FNAF movie in town. By shooting in New Orleans, a huge chunk of that $20 million budget was going to accommodations, drivers, caterers, local talent, location rentals, equipment, and other general resources that help local businesses thrive, and maybe start a domino effect to get other movies back in the region. Regardless of all of that, the point is that this one decision to try one final game, it's grown beyond itself. It's no longer about just making its own franchise full of games. It's spread to all corners of the media industry and to so many other IPs and creators, spawning a wave of new franchises and giving life to so many careers that otherwise might not have had a chance. But speaking of careers, there's one final area that's also needed to be addressed, an area that has been so affected by FNAF it's crazy to not talk about, and that of course is here on YouTube. FNAF has done a lot of numbers for a lot of industries, but its effect on the YouTube landscape is still visible to this day, and in a much more obvious way. When FNAF first launched, it was just one of many games that YouTubers started playing because spooky games got big views. This game gave rise to some of the biggest names on the platform, names that are still going strong today. Let's players like Corey X Kenshin and Markiplier, who've been on YouTube for a couple couple of years, but saw their careers
king
accelerate in
of FNAF.
parallel alongside the FNAF
Right.
releases. You also had a massive surge in nerdcore musical artists like the Living Tombstone,
Yep,
whose
Living
FNAF song
Tombstone.
was at 1 million views in a couple of weeks, whereas most other songs they would release would have a few 100,000 views months after release. And machinima creators started using FNAF models and characters to tell their own unique stories long before the FNAF movie ever hit theaters, racking up literally billions of views. But what truly
jeez.
set FNAF apart were obviously the hidden details cluing fans into the bigger story. This, more than anything else, ignited the internet's passion like never before, giving rise to the theorist community.
Yeah, a lot
People
of
like
FNAF
Dawko,
videos, man.
Resbowski, 8-Bit Ryan, Rytoast, ID's Fantasy, Hyperdroid, John FNAF, and of course, us, going through this game piece by piece in order to find the hidden story within it. Now, contrary to popular belief, FNAF wasn't the first thing that actually had us creating lore theories. That was always just part of the channel's DNA. But before FNAF, we were coming up with lore theories for franchises where the story was basically well known. Whether or not Majora's Mask is an allegory for grieving, you get the story of a moon crashing down. Regardless of whether Peach is Rosalina's mom, you get the basic premise of Mario Galaxy.
Yep.
Humans certainly might be Pokemon. That's not really affecting anyone's journey to become a league champ. But FNAF was different. It showed that games could be built off of
Yeah,
withholding
just
the lore and
mystery.
forcing the fan base to solve it. By leaving the door open and never confirming anything, Scott allowed YouTubers, Redditors, and just general fans to continually assess and reassess the lore, find new directions, new hot takes. And that means that we're still theorizing about it
They're
this
all
very
robots.
day. Can it be frustrating? Absolutely. Heck, maybe now that I'm retiring from the channel, I can track Scott down and get some answers out of him. But it's also entertaining. And the success of this theory-based model on YouTube has carried over into the mainstream, where now almost every game and movie release is designed with theory crafting in mind. While it's impossible to calculate the full scope of FNAF on YouTube, I was able to find that there are 106 videos with more than 10 million views each. Together, they total roughly 5.4 billion views on just their very own. And if we assume that they're getting the standard gaming CPM on YouTube, which is about $4.55, that thens a total earning across all of those videos of $24,570,000 in ad revenue. Markiplier's literally gone on record to say that the house that he lives in is the house that FNAF paid for, and he's joked on his Distractable podcast about how lucrative FNAF's been for him.
Let's go into a fan favorite here. Five Nights at Freddy's.
Boo. So there's two ways I could look at this, right? I could look at it from the game purely by itself, or I could look at it at the dividends it is paid out for me specifically.
And that's
Oh my
put him in a
God.
position to pursue bigger and loftier
I
projects
didn't know
like
that,
the
but
With
wow.
Markiplier series. And now his movie Iron Lung. One half of the Living Tombstone, Sam Haft, is now writing songs for internet sensations like Has Been Hotel. YouTubers like FNAF and Rytoast, they've been able to go full time with YouTube, all thanks to FNAF. And heck, look at
Oh,
us.
man.
Because of FNAF, we've thrived. We've been able to grow our team, give jobs to dozens of people, and perhaps best of all, we've carved out our own platform that allows us to turn the spotlight onto a next generation of creatives, to make us tastemakers in the space that are able to pay it forward, to make you aware of projects that you should be playing and watching, from Cooking Companions, to The Man in the Suit, to Shipwrecked 64, Welcome Home, Mandela Catalog, Walton Files. The list goes on and on and on. In short, FNAF created an ecosystem where new IPs can thrive, a virtuous cycle that benefited itself, to be sure, but also had a halo effect on dozens of other franchises looking to get attention. And all of this is without even mentioning other trickle-down effects. Our large platform allowed us to run charity events like St. Jude, paying that blessing forward to help
Yeah,
doctors
St.
and hospitals
Jude,
working on
right.
treatments for childhood cancer, where of course, Scott himself was a sizable and direct contributor year after year. There are also dozens of other charity events coming from creators like Dawko, Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, Rytoast, John FNAF. Not only have these events been able to raise tens of millions of dollars for various organizations looking to do good work in the world, hopefully those events in turn inspired others, you out in the audience or other creators, to adopt a spirit of generosity and giving in their own lives. And again, it all comes down to this one decision. One guy who in the face of adversity and criticism chose not to give up. That is the millions of people and billions of dollars affected by that
Man.
one Spoopy Bear game. Thank you, Scott.
It takes
Thank
me
you
back,
for
man.
all.
Yeah, thank
And
you,
while
Scott.
all of this is cool and impressive and inspirational, it's also overwhelming, right? You look at the impact that one decision like this can have, and you feel like you can never live up. I know that's how I feel sometimes. But remember, it's all about small decisions making a domino effect. Just being kind to someone else, saying something nice, holding a door, listening to someone's problems, making them laugh. All of those are seemingly small things that can make a massive difference in the way someone's day's going. And that to me has always been the power of these channels. They're a place to learn a little something, a place to brighten your day in some small way, which then you can pay forward to other people in your life. And that positivity, it spreads. It spreads and creates real massive change. That to me, honestly, is the hardest thing about leaving these channels. Losing that chance to be a force of just a little bit of good in your life. But you know what? I'm not done yet. I'll see you one last time next week, March 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m.
Yeah,
Pacific. As
I probably
celebrate
react to the
with you
video
one
that
final
Theory
time
released,
as
you
a
know.
theorist
It's the final
community.
one, why
Till
not?
then, as always, remember, it's all just a theory. a game
Theory. Thanks for watching. Man, I can't believe that matpat is already, finished making the video. I know that, again, I know I'm late a couple of days, but I gotta say I love this final FNAF theory, like going back to the legacy of Five Nights at Freddy's, assessing them, like how big of the impact that this game has. And yeah, this game also have a big impact on me personally, because I get to know YouTube thanks to this game. I get to know, Markiplier, that I get to know that, oh, you can actually record playing a video game and then making a job out of it. Like, that's a dream job right there. Like back in the day, I didn't know anything about YouTube. I just thought that, well, yeah, YouTube exists, but I didn't exactly know how it works, But thanks to Five Nights at Freddy's, I was able to figure out how YouTube works. I was able to, get to know Markiplier, the king of Five Nights at Freddy's, right? And it's just like, yeah, it's sad to see matpat go, but I'm glad that this is like the final theory that he does. Because Five Nights at Freddy's is everyone's childhood, even my childhood as well. Like, it's really impact my life, because now I'm making YouTube videos thanks to Five Nights at Freddy's. And even though my view of the franchise is kind of like going down at this point, because like I don't really like how I feel like they're going a bit too big, and I think it does get a bit overwhelming in terms of the story. Like, I don't think it's no longer fun to figure out what's actually happening, at least in my opinion, because it's just too big. But I can't deny that the first 4 games is actually really special in my heart, because these 4 games are my childhood, and that's the first time I figure out that, oh, there is actually a theory, a lore in this storyline, because I always thought that it's just gonna be, just a simple gameplay where you just like defend yourself against an animatronic, but once I figure out there is an actual story on it, that's where I'm just like super intrigued with the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, and that's where I get to know matpat, the game theory, and start to introduce my friends who plays Five Nights at Freddy's, but they didn't know that there is a lore, there is a story behind it, and then I introduced them to lore, and then they got super fascinated with the story as well, and they even start making their own theory at the time, this was back in 2015, So yeah, I think I just want to say thank you, Scott Cotton, obviously, and thank you, matpat, for being here for everybody's childhood. I'm gonna miss him, obviously, because I know that the FNAF theory is gonna continue with Tom, the new guy, which I think he's gonna do a good job. I'm trying to be optimistic, obviously, because that is a reason why matpat choose him to do to host game theory. And even though I'm pretty sure that matpat is going to like work behind the scene, obviously it's not just gonna be Tom 100%. I'm pretty sure behind the scene matpat is like approving stuff here and there about the channel. He's not entirely retire, at least in my opinions. But yeah, again, great final video for the legacy of Five Nights at Freddy's, and it's just insane to see that this is like a one-man decision, that if Scott Cotton just stopped and give up making games, then we wouldn't have Five Nights at Freddy's. We wouldn't have this iconic franchise to be part of our childhood. And the fact that he never give up, he decided to let's just do one more chance to do it. And because he make that small decision to make Five Nights at Freddy's, is enough to make him into like a big video game creator that basically influenced a lot of gaming industries and a lot of fan games as well. And you can feel the impact way back in 2014, 2015, and 2016. I think that's where Five Nights at Freddy's was actually at his height, because now it's just like, yeah, everyone knows FNAF, and some of them are getting tired, including myself. Like, okay, like I'm hoping they introduce like a brand new storyline, a brand new reboot for the franchise, because I'm all in for it. But I guess we'll see about that. I think they're going to keep sticking to the William Afton storyline, which in my opinion, I think it's already concluded in FNAF 6, even in FNAF 3. But of course, when something is so successful, you want to continue them, so it's understandable. So yeah, thank you, Scott. Thank you, matpat, for being here. Again, great final video for Five Nights at Freddy's here, explaining the legacy of it and the impact on everyone's life, and on movies as well, hopefully that is Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is going to be filmed at New Orleans like the first one. Maybe, who knows? I don't know any information about the second film yet, because I only know they're gonna start filming potentially this July, and then we're probably gonna get the movie next year, which is pretty exciting. I just cannot wait to see where they're gonna take the story next, and hopefully it could improve the first one, because the first movie, while it was okay, it definitely could be way better than it is, and especially the novelization of the movie is actually way better. But that's just me. Either way, let me know in the comment section below, guys, what do you guys think about this this matpat FNAF Legacy video here, you know. And I guess if you guys want to share your experience, you know, how you guys found out about game theory for the first time, then share me your experience in the comment section below, you know, because I personally discovered matpat from obviously Five Nights at Freddy's, you know. Is it the same to you guys, or maybe you guys already know matpat way before FNAF? Let me know all that in the comment section below, guys. And yeah, if you guys want to watch the original video, then again, the link will be in the description below. And make sure you guys subscribe to Game Theory. You know, I know that matpat is no longer the host, but still support the channel, you know, because it's everyone's childhood, you know, and clearly it's time for matpat to move on and do something else, you know, besides making the theory videos, you know, because I'm pretty sure matpat also has other project in line, and like it's not just gonna sit there and not doing anything, because obviously that's just not matpat, you know. So I really kind of want to see what matpat does next, you know, what kind of project they say he has in store, you know. That's pretty exciting. So yeah, once again, thank you matpat for being our childhood. I'm gonna miss you so much. And I will be reacting to the final theory video by the Game Theory, because I know that the other theory channel also upload their final theory videos, you know, but I'm probably gonna be reacting to the Game Theory specifically, you know, because it's just like it's the big part of my life, you know, and I just want to see matpat for the final time, you know. So yeah, stay tuned for that, you know, whatever that video is gonna be released. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed this reaction video, then make sure you guys, you know, jump scare that subscribe and like button, guys, and share the videos. And again, stay tuned for more videos in the future, guys. And again, I hope you guys enjoy these reaction videos, and I will see you guys in the next one then. Bye.